the Education Lounge podcast.
So joining us today is James. So I'm John, this is Prajay, James, and we're talking about time at Forest School, which is an independent school located in Waltham Forest, and it's selective and it's a fee-paying school, and we're just going to talk about our experiences there. So James, if you could introduce yourself and tell us a bit about what you're doing at the moment.
Sure. A bit about myself. Well, at the moment I'm working for Medics Academy and have done for about 3 years now. And but my pathway took a few strange turns, I guess you'd say. I was living abroad for a number of years, freelancing. So, and then backtrack before that, I went to university for biology. And so part of what I loved about Forest School was the some of the biology teachers and kind of facilities they had, and that all kind of plays into obviously the decisions that I made after. But yeah, that gives some basic background.
Okay, so Prajay's got a different perspective because he's been at Forest for a long time.
Age 7, year 3, yeah. Year 3 all the way up to sixth form.
What did you? Well, you got a different perspective on that. How did you tell us a little bit about the prep school?
The prep school. So obviously, boys and girls are separate in prep school. Obviously, in secondary, we start to have breaks and things together, but classes are still separate. Prep school, I did a lot of. That's where I started music. Actually, it's one of the good things about Forest is it's not all fully academic. So there's the academic side, and then there's the music side. Obviously, there's a drama school. So we did quite a lot of that sort of thing in primary, probably more so than secondary even.
Yeah, everyone here is into music.
Yeah.
So, Forest has a very good reputation in terms of music. There's a lot of orchestras, and there's also a lot of opportunities to. There's a big music centre as well.
Yeah, which
loads of pianos and
they've done up recently, haven't they?
the wind band.
Wind band was a big part of my...
Were you in wind band?
Yeah,
Oh, right.
for a while playing the clarinet.
Yeah.
Oh,
But the piano, because I was playing piano mostly not involved in school, but I was doing it kind of, not strictly, but I was devoted to it outside of school.
Mm-hmm.
But there were a few times when I snuck into the main, after the music kind of new facilities were built.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
They had a piano up in the top, a Yamaha, that sounded so beautiful that I would sometimes just sneak in there to play a little bit.
Yeah. Although they knocked down the squash courts, I was disappointed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The squash
That's
courts.
that's what used to be there. Yeah.
That
I
takes
remember
me back.
I was devastated.
I bet you were.
I wasn't actually a squash player, so yeah, that made me a bit sad because that was one of the reasons why I went.
What, to Forest?
Yeah, I was like, it was squash courts, and then I discovered it had been taken away. And no one else really played. So
No, but we got to still got to play badminton, and they had the tennis courts and things as well. So
So it had excellent facilities generally. What did you think about, so initially entering, obviously it's a bit different for project, but entering into year 7?
Mm-hmm.
Where were you before? Snaresbrook?
I was at Snaresbrook Prep, which, that was like a standard. It's for my family. It's like it's a standard thing because
It's a rite of passage.
because but not so much Forest, but for sure Snaresbrook Prep, because I think a great grandma or someone was headmistress of that, and we sort of. It's a very small school, but the Mathesons are like, they have to go there first.
Well, there's quite a few, wasn't there? Quite even from our year.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, quite a lot of Snaresbrook Prep went to Forest. It's like half the class.
I didn't come from a prep school. I came from a state primary,
Yeah.
So it was extremely different.
Yeah.
Like it didn't compare in any way.
Was it like really, really large classes, or just the field?
Yeah, we had about 40 in each class.
Wow.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Where
35 to
where was
40.
this again?
Aldersbrook. Primary.
Yeah.
So
We
is-
stayed very local, haven't we?
Yeah.
It was pretty big classes, but I guess the main thing was it was just academically there was nothing really going on. So I remember we just kind of drifted around, and then there were quite a few intelligent children at Aldersbrook, but there was nothing really challenging you there. You were just kind of happy just to coast through life, and then when I went to Forest, it was just shock because we didn't really have homework, and then I went to Forest and it was like 3 hours homework a day, and it was just ridiculous time management.
Yeah.
So I'd finish homework at like 11.
And that's not including like music practice. Or
Yeah,
anything else.
and all the after school stuff. Yeah. So initially it was a bit of a shock.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It seemed to adjust pretty well.
Eventually, it took about 3 years. Like to actually adjust to the pace and actually catch up, because I felt I was like quite behind quite a lot of subjects.
Yeah. I feel like I end up being behind the subjects I like the least.
Oh,
So like the ones I'm actually interested in.
yeah.
You kind of put more effort into those anyway.
But you're more you have a more unusual taste in subjects. They're not they're not mainly academic, I think.
No.
So like graphic design.
Yeah, like I loved like the whole DT centre at Forest was one of my favourite things.
Yeah.
The music centre.
Yeah.
And then when we went to sixth form, they had we did music tech,
Mm-hmm.
and then they built that whole music tech studio.
Mm-hmm.
We got to like learn how to do all that sort of stuff. I don't think that's there anymore.
No,
I don't think there was
not
enough
enough.
not enough interest. I mean, in our music tech class, we had like five people.
Yeah, we
I
hadn't
think.
filled it up, and it's an expensive room.
Yeah, it was a
Like
very
equipment.
expensive room.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So that doesn't surprise me too much. And you can learn music tech on pretty much any laptop these days.
yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
I think I
like
learned
tech.
more about music tech after
Yeah.
that when I started getting into that sort of stuff after than when I did when I was at school.
Mm.
But it was good to have that while it was a.
I remember switching to music tech last minute because I thought that I wanted to do history. But when I took my first history lesson in sixth form, I realised that it was the teacher that got me excited about that subject. It wasn't the subject itself. I thought
This is the thing.
backing away really quick because I don't want. So it was Mr. Tyman was my history teacher in GCSE. But I didn't have him for sixth form, so I switched. But yeah, that was one of those inspiring teachers.
That was a hell of a history department.
Yeah.
That was a very good. And he had Mr. Brandt. Mr. Brandt he was a legendary teacher, basically.
Yeah.
He could really paint. He could really relate events in the past to the present, like connect the dots really well, and then he painted a picture. He painted the past in colour. It's quite special, and also he was always really good with feedback. So you always felt like it was actionable feedback. You could do something about improving your grade.
History is one of those things where it can either be just rote learning of dates and be as kind of dry and not applicable as you can imagine. And then on the other side, if it's taught well, it could be the complete reverse because you can connect it with things happening today, as you said, and draw some real kind of knowledge from it.
Yeah, at Forest they focus quite a lot on, especially at A level, they focus quite a lot on quite complicated ideas. So interpretation, not just interpretation is the more important part, and that's really what you do at university more. And
Yeah, sure.
so just like actually thinking and considering evidence, not just going with what you perceive to be the truth.
Yeah.
Sort of delving a bit deeper and analysing sources.
We'll take it back and we're talking about how it was entering year 7, because it was different for me. Like I had obviously had to take an exam, but for somebody that was in primary, it was sort of like, okay, you're automatically going into secondary because you're already here.
Yeah.
But that wasn't the case for you two.
Mm.
So I just want to know what was the exam like? Like, what was the entry process like?
I don't remember it that well.
Blotted it out.
I don't remember too many details apart from just being really obviously impressed with the scale, kind of overwhelmed by the scale of it all, and then just being really grateful for that little registration group where I was like, where you just make friends with the person you're next to, and that lasts for at least a couple months, even if you're not compatible at all. That guy is your friend because he's next to you in registration class.
Yeah, it was alphabetical, wasn't it?
That helped a lot. Yeah.
So,
and then there were those mysterious other groups, like I was bishops. What were you?
Copeland.
Oh, these are the houses, yeah.
Houses, yeah.
Oh,
so it was like
there's form groups and then there's also houses.
So there was house. So how did it go? Oh, was it all the houses were mixed up in the beginning? Was it?
Yeah, you had forms. Like we had like 1R, 2R, 3R.
Yeah.
And then when you get to later on, you like, is it 4th year maybe, where you have your registration in your houses rather than as a class.
Yeah.
I think if I remember correctly, that's what it was.
Yeah. That's how it was.
Anyway, whatever it was. So the form groups then before the houses.
Yeah, the form groups where you form your initial friendships.
Yeah.
And stuff like that.
I don't think
and they've kind of got a bit of a competition between the groups.
Yeah.
In a sense, yeah.
Yeah, like an unspoken sort of.
But there's also house competitions too. So
yeah, I did a few of those.
Competition's really the thing that I notice is the major difference between primary school and Forest.
Seeing as we had that in Forest as well, our primary we only had 4 houses and they were slightly different. We still had Jonians. So Jonians, doctors, something like Bardels, I think, and then there was also a yellow one, green, red, yellow, and purple, which was called something else. So there was still
maybe it was Copeland.
Maybe Copeland.
Because Copeland was like, I think he was like one of the. He's connected, well, not connected to the founding, but he's pretty early on.
Yeah.
But
it's weird how they didn't always follow through.
I think Guy's is the oldest house. I'm not sure.
Yeah, but we still had that competition in primary school as well. We didn't have like house music and house drama and all that. But you did have like an end of year cup and.
We just had boys versus girls basically, and boys versus other boys. Like, just probably just very silly competitions. Not the first thing that I remember is at primary school. It wasn't really cool to be smart. Like it wasn't. Like it was not. It was not good to be a nerd.
I think it was the other way around, from what I found.
You try the coolness switched from being smart to being.
I think so. Yeah, from Forest anyway. There was that competition to be like top of the class and who's cleverer than who, and all that in primary. In secondary, I feel like that sort of switched around.
Yeah,
but I guess that's just the age group.
I don't think that. I don't know about that.
Well, you had a different primary school experience.
There was definitely well, actually, to be honest, like Forest was just competitive in every way. Like it was competition, like academically. I noticed like competitively in sport. It just ramped up so much. It was so different from primary school.
So should we say that's a good thing? Because I feel like if you have a healthy sort of competition, it pushes each.
I didn't know I was good at anything until I went to Forest.
Sounds like it was a good thing then.
Yeah.
Because I kind of knew, okay, so I'm relatively good at English or maths or whatever compared to other people in primary school, but you don't realise your limitations and your strengths until you have actual competition about it. sort of competitive element. I mean, I would say like there's a healthy balance, and I think Forest was good at that and maintaining that balance. Where I've heard other schools which aren't so well rounded,
more academic than
that can be actually a not very good element.
you could have the reverse effect if you push it.
Yeah, too far.
Yeah,
Like places like St Olave's, and
I heard Bancroft was quite academically competitive, more so than Forest anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard that of the three main ones in this area. So, Bancroft's,
Davenant?
Chigwell.
Oh, Chigwell.
Well, the main independent schools. So, Chigwell, Bancroft's, Forest. They're like the three. I think Forest has a slightly better reputation in terms of pastoral care. There's a bit more supportive atmosphere, but the other two have maybe a bit more of a academic slant.
All down to that chaplain. The diamond, the gem, we know what we call him, just golden-hearted man.
The chaplain? Oh, yeah. Gaza. With a chaplain called
Mr. Gascoigne.
Mr. Gascoigne.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, carry on. I'm just trying to.
Yeah, it felt a little bit like Hogwarts school when I first arrived, to be honest, because you go through like these hallways, especially the one going from the sixth form area
Past the chapel
on your left, and then down that corridor with some like biology labs or whatever to the right or something like that. And then you turn around and go around again, and then eventually you reach the drama school. And it's just felt like an ancient corridor. Like you could turn around and see someone petrified from a dragon snake, and learn that it's from underneath the ground, and it wouldn't surprise you. Be like, that makes sense. That fits.
I'm pretty sure that Forest was considered like the dining hall.
Oh really?
I think that was actually considered for the film.
That wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah, and there was somebody from our school.
That too.
There was somebody from our school that was
That dining
in
hall's
the
insane.
film.
Oh, wow.
An extra. They're younger than us, but whatever. Yeah.
Think about how much. I mean, it was essentially a church.
Yeah.
That dining hall, but just the hall. We probably fit like 5 stories in that thing before you reach the.
Yeah, and you had all the old paintings and like the huge roof and everything.
Yeah, so as a newbie, that was definitely impressive.
Yeah.
The project was just part of the furniture.
Yeah. Although, do you know what the big thing I noticed from moving from primary to secondary is like when you turn up there in primary and you're like this big, everything is massive.
Yeah.
But primary is kind of kept into one corner of the school.
Right.
Yeah.
So you share the dining hall and the music and all of that. And then when you go to secondary, you realise there's like another whole half of the school you didn't know existed.
Yeah.
So it just like opens it up even more. So that was quite a shock.
Yeah, I remember trying to get from class to class. I remember just running around trying to reach the next class in time.
Yeah.
And it was just like impossible to reach the class in time.
And then you get told off for being late.
You're late. And
And you got let out at like 11 or 10 o'clock and your other class starts at 10 o'clock. And on the other side of the school. And you're like tiny and your bag is massive. Run across the entire school.
That's exactly right.
Yeah, that was quite funny. And the group would fragment, and then there'd be like the stragglers at the end, and then the super keen people at the front who'd reach class and stuff.
Yeah.
And I was kind of in the middle.
It was a completely different thing because being so used to just staying in the same classroom every day. And then that first day when you're sitting there in your form thing and you're like, and they're like, okay, here's your timetables. And you're like, what? Why is this bit different to that bit? It's like you have to change rooms.
Yeah, having a timetable, that was a shock for me.
Yeah.
Like, and obviously it's me. So I didn't have a timetable by the end of the first week. So I had to follow people around.
Oh yeah, when the timetables differed to everyone else around you, that was way worse.
But it was
right?
fine. It was fine in the first. It was fine in the first year.
First year you could just follow the crowd, but like.
But not even
later
that.
on-
Like first year, you're in your form, so most people are
Yeah.
going with you. When you start making friends outside of your form, and you see them in between lessons, and they're going they're going somewhere else, and you realise I'm supposed to be with those people.
I like break time. Yeah,
Yeah,
I
when it
was like,
mixes and everyone's on break
who's
time.
in my class?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a whole thing.
And then you have to, because I had my music lessons there as well. So then you've got to fit all of that into all of the other stuff as well.
Yeah, I remember the number of books as well.
I remember
Do you
people
remember?
actually falling, like people, because obviously they're like that big, and the bags are heavier than the person, so people actually like
Yeah.
turtle shells and like fall backwards and like actually
Yeah, bigger than
Okay.
bigger
books
than the
are
child.
yeah,
Like,
the books are heavier than the child that's carrying them.
They made us tougher, I suppose.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Way best.
What's next? Probably was it? What about some of the bad things?
I mean, I was quite happy with all of it. The bad thing would probably be some of the teachers weren't, what's the word, like, they weren't like as enthusiastic about relaying a concept, rather than more like just here's a list of things and this is what you're doing.
I think it's like any school. There's amazing teachers, and then there's teachers that are. I don't think I had any really awful teachers. That made it impossible to learn the subject or something like that.
Yeah, I probably wouldn't want to name anybody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There were
What's that?
there were a couple. Chemistry,
Yeah.
French, physics. We all know who we're talking about there.
Yeah,
Well, there was a French teacher that I had a crush on that everyone told me was boring. So I'm not sure if you're thinking of her or someone else.
I highly doubt you would have had a crush on this person. If you did, we're going to have some other conversations.
Hormones flying around at that age, you can't judge. But even the teachers that are just doing it to kind of, as you say, there's no heart in it. They're just kind of going through the list. Even they were usually good for making fun of and stuff. So they brought their own.
Yeah.
They brought their own kind of benefit to the whole situation. There was no one who was an absolute horror show, I don't think.
It made the class more funny, but
Yeah.
you learned less.
Yeah.
It's like
I wouldn't
opposite
say-
correlation between the two things.
I wouldn't say there was any teacher that didn't know their subject.
That's true. Everyone knew their subject, they just didn't always know how to communicate it.
Yeah, sometimes if you've got someone who's extreme, like some of the teachers were like doctors and stuff like that, and very well educated, and then sometimes they struggled a little bit. I think relaying the concept in a way that was meaningful for some children, essentially. Like,
Yeah, that's what we say when we teach here. Like, you have to make it
so
relatable.
you've got to kind of bring it down to their level. Some people could do that very well.
It's quite a big difference. Like, if you think about chemistry, there's one chemistry teacher who would do experiments and like show us things exploding and like burning people's crisps and sweets and things to show how much sugar there was, and making it like that's relatable. Like, you're actually like you got them from the tuck shop and you burn it in front of you and show you how much sugar's in it, and like that kind of stuff sparks,
So you remember that class, don't you?
But then you have the opposite side where different chemistry teacher
Who's my housemaster?
a different chemistry teacher wouldn't do any experiments really, and he'd just give you worksheet after worksheet and just talk at you. And it's like you can see the exact same subjects.
Having said
Two
that,
different teachers.
I did quite well.
Yeah.
I did quite well in chemistry,
I don't know how I did.
but like I don't know how I didn't understand chemistry, but it somehow osmosis, I absorbed it.
This biology.
Yeah, this is something. Yeah.
I love biology, but the other sciences I didn't have really any time for.
See, I really enjoyed physics as a subject, but when it was taught to me at school, it didn't really it made me like it less.
I remember being frustrated by, I think it must have been the physics teacher, when he couldn't explain to me what gravity was. And I was like, but what is it? I stayed in after class, and he kept describing the effects. And like, he was a good teacher and everything. Not it was just me being a little kind of pernickety guy. But I was like, but what is it? He said, no one knows.
You still do the same thing now.
Exactly.
It's pretty much the exact same question as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Like I get the effects of it, but what is it?
Is it?
I think that's an important. But I think that's what differentiates a lot of forest students from other students, is that they inquire about why and what, like not just to pass the exam, but to understand why that's the case.
I definitely like to think so. We're awesome.
There was always competition between like Forest and Bancroft and Chigwell specifically.
Yeah, especially in sport. I don't know if you guys did that much sport.
Not really. I did a little bit. I did hockey and basketball and one rubbish football game.
One rubbish.
Well, like, they made a group C or something, and I did that for one game.
I played football and I did athletics as well, and yeah, like it was quite exciting. First of all, how many opportunities there were to sort of meet other schools, like go to other schools and compete. There was also, like, obviously you can get scouted or picked up by an athletics club, and that kind of thing, which was also good. And then I went to places that quite surprising. Like, I was surprised that I ended up going there. So places like Eton, Hampton School, and some of these big independent schools that I wouldn't have got the chance to do otherwise. And I mean, that was possible in multiple things. Like, at one point I went to what was it? I think I went to Hampton School to play chess.
What, for Forest?
Yeah, like, I was trying to hide from. It's a bit of a weird story, but like, I was trying to hide from the athletics team. So I was like a bit injured, but I was playing it up.
Were you real injured?
I was playing it up a bit because I just couldn't be bothered to run.
So this is like because you have to pick your sport, don't you? You pick sport at the beginning of the term for your Mondays and your Wednesdays.
Yeah.
And I think chess was one of them because chess is my sport.
So I picked chess.
Is that what it was?
I picked chess as my sport.
And then you had to play chess for
Yeah.
school.
And I ended up playing. Yeah, I ended up going, like, being taken around to play chess. And I just remember that I'm not that good at chess. Like, but I somehow ended up second seed. I don't know how. Like, I think it's just because no one else did chess.
Yeah, don't downplay. Well done.
Yeah.
I don't know what second seed
I managed
means.
to get a
I'm
draw
trying to
again.
figure that out too.
I managed to get a draw against someone.
Yeah.
Another school. I was quite proud of that, forcing a draw. I just played really defensively. But yeah, I wouldn't have had that chance to. I think at a lot of other schools, they might not have invested so much in sort of the breadth of the curriculum outside the academic curriculum, especially places like say Ilford County, somewhere like that. They don't really do that as much.
So maybe we should, because we've spoken about the music facilities, but there was obviously quite a lot of sports facilities as well. You have that big the big field when you kind of walk through the forest, and it's like the pond. You walk down through the forest and up this little hill, and then you're in this massive field, like football, hockey. You got track, long jump thing at the back. I don't know how it is now, but and then there was
I used to love the athletics hall, and any time we would do athletics in it, as in just drag out the crash mats, get up the springboards.
Oh, the sports hall.
Yeah, sports hall.
Sports hall, yeah. That's so much fun.
There's a lot of stuff in there.
But now they've got, like, obviously,
Sylvestrian.
since we've left, there's been it's been upgraded a lot, and now it's very
Well,
fancy.
I think he got upgraded the year before we left, maybe.
Yeah, so we didn't really have that much of a chance to use those facilities, but they
But
were.
we actually use them now. We still go and play badminton and stuff
Yeah.
there now.
So it's a
Then you've got towards the girls' school. There was like the cricket runs and the tennis courts as well.
I think the only thing that we complained about was the swimming pool.
That old swimming pool.
The old swimming pool was like
Full of spiders, always full of
spiders.
freezing cold.
Occasionally a little like or a large
like-
plaster just floating around.
It wasn't very airtight, that place.
Not airtight.
No, there were
at all.
holes in the roof.
You'd be,
When it rained outside, it rained inside.
you'd be queuing up wet because you've just been in this barely heated pool.
Yeah.
And then you're standing right next to a big visible crack in the side and the wind's gushing in and you're like, I hate this.
Yeah.
I hate everything about this.
I mean, sometimes we'd
Yeah.
swim in the winter as well. Like
Yeah,
it was on rotation sort of, and then you'd hate doing. You just hope that you wouldn't get swimming in winter.
No, it must have been heated because I remember it being a relief going in.
I don't think that pool was heated.
It was a little bit, but it wasn't like.
Or maybe you just got so cold in the wind and rain, half naked, that
Like
when you
standing
finally
on the
got
side
in,
of
it was
the pool
better.
was like hell.
That's
It was
horrible.
definitely worse.
Especially once you've already been in.
Yeah, I just
Yeah.
remember it being a relief when you finally got in. But then you had to dodge all the plasters, make sure you don't.
Flies and
Breathe them
spiders.
in.
Yeah, you end up eating insects and things
Yeah.
when you're swimming along.
I mean, I can like at the start of in year 7, I couldn't really swim, so like now I can swim really well.
I think I remember you saying it's because you were solid muscle, so you couldn't float. I think that was your reason.
That was my excuse. Yeah, but I just remember like first they just made us swim, like as in I had no choice but to swim. They were like, all right, you got to do these lengths, and what? I usually just go around the side, so like just hold the railing, and then I just had to swim. So they made me swim with my terrible technique. But then eventually, like what I found with Forest is that there's a lot of people willing to help you. And give you advice, and that I've heard from a lot of other people that that's not the case in a lot of other schools. So like, Sylvia was talking about Ilford County, and how like you can't really sometimes people aren't willing to share how to do something. It's very competitive in that way. They're kind of like, oh, I've got to keep the secret so I remain on top.
But then I found
Oh, you mean fellow peers
yeah, like
as opposed to okay.
Oh, I thought you meant like teachers.
Yeah.
Teachers too, but like teachers meant to. But then
It's interesting that it was with the peers, with the students though, because it means it was a culture, basically, that we weren't aware of.
Well, I guess there were also more people in the class as well, so you had more competition.
Yeah, it's like well, we've got a friend called Chris, and he struggled a little bit with chemistry, and there's Will, and he's really good. He was like really good at chemistry and science, and he was like helping Chris out, trying out, even in sort of early on. So and I think that's quite different from some other schools.
It depends on the person. I mean, even at Forest, you still get the what is it? You know when you come out of an exam, and everyone's like, "Oh, it was really easy. I didn't do any revision," or like.
Yeah, but I think that became more of a thing. I think
later on.
Yeah, that became a thing like later on. I think it was just. Well, I think initially everyone was just trying to survive, like trying to. I don't know. Everyone was quite nice compared to.
I remember Gallagher saying that, but with him, I'm pretty sure it was real.
I can imagine it probably was real with him.
He was the most kind of transformation that in our friend group between when he was younger and when he just came home one summer and he was like just this personality had popped out of the shell, and
It was quite a big change, wasn't it?
it was a big change.
Yeah.
It's weird. You never know how you're perceived when you come back one summer.
It was literally a summer, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
It was just all about studying, and then he was like, I'll get to that. And, just became super relaxed.
We could talk about teachers, I suppose.
Yeah.
So,
You've already mentioned a couple, like your history teachers that you had.
yeah, I had 2, I think, that were three, that were major sources of inspiration. There was like Mr. Bryant.
Mm-hmm.
Even though I didn't go on to study history, but I think everything that he taught me sort of helped me quite a lot at university. So like how to actually write an essay, that kind of thing. So learning, I think history is a great subject for learning how to actually write a paper, and that kind of helped me later on. And also evaluating sources, he helped me quite a lot with that too. And then there was, Mr. Stone.
Yeah, I never had him as a teacher, but yeah.
Like, I learned a lot in maths from Mr. Stone compared to, like, I was really struggling at maths. Like, and I got quite good at it. But I was in set 3 for maths in year 9. And that year 9 class helped me a lot. I think you were in that class, and you also were taught by Mr. Stone. And then we moved up to Miss Venditti's class. So we moved into set 2.
I went the other way. I was in set 1. And then I ended up in set 2 with you guys.
Yeah.
So cool.
Yeah.
We moved up a set.
But then, like, he helped me kind of get over algebra, because that was a big, like, if you can't grasp algebra, you kind of struggle with more advanced concepts. So that helped me a lot. And then there was Mr. McLennan, Latin.
Right.
Obviously, like, I did philosophy and classics for my bachelor's degree, and he taught classics, but he also taught Latin. I think quite a strong influence because I had him for a long time. And I think he just had a way with boys. He was like just very good with
rapport.
Yeah, like really likable.
Latin, I think I might have had him in like the first year maybe.
I think I remember just messing around in Mr. Stone's class.
There was a lot of messing around. But
I mean, that happened in
I thought the teaching was like, as in he explained things really simply.
See, I was messing around a bit because I wasn't the biggest fan. But so it's interesting how different people get different stuff from the same teacher.
That is true.
Yeah.
Like learning styles, isn't it?
Exactly, yeah.
We notice that when we teach as well. It's just like sometimes you've just got a rapport with a certain tutor.
In Miss Venditti's class, I also messed around the next set up, but that was just because I was next to Chris. And we started really hitting it off. And we discovered that you could shine the. We were next to the window.
I remember you were back left because we two were next to.
Oh yeah,
next to you.
At the front.
Yeah.
Yeah, I annoyed him quite a lot.
We would shine the light.
Yeah. That's a whole other story. He got me kicked out of the class.
Yeah. It's great.
Yeah. I was in set 1, then I got moved to set 2, and I had to sit next to him.
Yeah.
And he kept talking at me like he normally does. And I got a bit fed up and I said, like, I'm trying to do something. Stop talking to me. And Miss Venditti told me off and kicked me down a set for telling him to be quiet.
Kicked you down the set.
Yeah.
Oh man.
So I ended up going from set 1 to set 3 in the space of a few months. I'm like, how did this happen? And then I ended up in a maths class where I won't name the teacher, but it was just all kinds of craziness. It was all those sorts of people that would throw stink bombs and throw chairs and throw stuff out the window. Like it was that it was that level of class because the teacher
all
like
kinds of
he knew his subjects, but he could not control a class.
Right.
Yeah.
And then you had the set 4 class literally on the other side of the wall.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of back and forth between them, like people getting kicked out and talking outside, and to go from like a class like Miss Venditti's class to that was like a shock.
Which was relatively focused.
It was a complete shock. and didn't deserve it.
Yeah. Okay, so why don't we round this off? So what does, obviously the motto, do you remember the school motto?
Oh, don't test me on that.
In pectors ruba something. Is that?
Pectore Robert. So
Yeah.
like it's about the
I don't know what it means.
having a strong heart. Do you think Forrest sort of embodied that?
Pectoral Robert. I was going to say a robust chest.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean,
Because
it's
like
kind
you
of-
can see how everything
from-
comes from Latin.
yeah.
I was so not into it as a kid, but it's one of those things when you get older you
Yeah.
appreciate a little bit. And just pectorals, okay, chest, robust maybe, strong heart.
That's quite a good point. I think. I don't think I always made the most of what was on offer, and I only realised that at this age.
And it's a really hard thing to communicate to a kid.
Yeah. Like
Maybe impossible, unfortunately.
It is quite a weird paradox that you don't like now.
It was all
That's
you
the sort
knew.
of stuff you want to do, and then it's not.
But maybe there's a time and a place for things. I mean, the good thing about this day and age is you can start learning stuff later on.
Yeah.
So a more important thing is to have that, is to, if you get a chance to instill something in kids, it's just the enjoy, like to take the chore out of learning if you can, so they don't lose that love of learning that they naturally have. And then if they don't care about Latin when they're a kid, that doesn't matter, because hopefully they take on that love of learning
Something else, yeah.
when they're older and want to learn it.
It's like I hated biology so much at school.
Oh mate, I loved
But I appreciate it a lot more now.
Yeah.
In fact, I it was like one of those subjects where you need so much knowledge. So it's a facty.
Yeah.
I'm better at applying knowledge. So
Same. This is why biology is the one I did the
Physics
worst in.
I
yeah,
loved all those facties. I
yeah.
was like, give me more facties. How does a cell work? This is crazy.
But then it is so it's obviously extremely relevant, and I understand it so much more now than I did then. But I think maybe you didn't see. I think when I first went to Forest, I saw more of the opportunity than you did, because you'd been there.
I'd already been there before.
Yeah, that was kind of all you knew. But I kind of knew that, having come from state primary school, that wasn't a good school at the time. It really, we it was quite it was a very stimulating environment for it. Like, I knew that it made a big difference. So and I started from behind as well. So I knew I had to work really hard to actually catch up.
Yeah, I can see that in hindsight now. But it goes back to that thing, like, at the time, you don't really see it.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So thanks for joining us.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was really
You're welcome.
nice talking.
It's a pleasure.
Yeah, and we'll leave it there for today.
Leave it there, yeah. Until next time.
Ta-ra.